from RTV6, Indianapolis This Week.
An executive order halting payments to insurers on the marketplace less than 3 weeks before open enrollment. The latest in the NFL kneeling controversy. But first, reprehensible. That's how a Republican state lawmaker is describing legislation he's proposing. Representative Jim Lucas is drafting a bill to require journalists to be licensed by the government. He says he's trying to make a point about what he considers a similarly misguided law requiring people to obtain a license to carry a handgun. He says licensing one constitutional right opens the floodgates.
There are no limits to it. This is a slippery slope. You know, it could be gun rights today. It could be our right to freedom of the press, our right to worship freely, you know, our right to vote. You know, if we allow licensing our Second Amendment rights, why shouldn't we license people to vote?
The director of the Pulliam School of Journalism at Franklin College says Lucas's comparison is inept. John Kroll says the lawmaker is not even comparing apples to oranges.
I can't imagine that the courts would stand for something like that, or that I would hope members of either party in Congress would abide by something like that.
This comes within days of President Trump threatening NBC's broadcast licenses after the network allegedly aired critical stories of him. Trump tweeting, "With all the fake news coming out of NBC and the networks, at what point is it appropriate to challenge their license? Bad for our country." Sabotage. That's what top Democrats in Congress are calling the president's executive order halting payments to insurers under the Affordable Care Act. The White House says there's no appropriation for the CSRs or cost-sharing reduction payments. The subsidies help offset premiums and other costs for low-income Americans. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Democratic Leader Nancy Pelosi said the president has apparently decided to punish the American people for his inability to improve our health care system. Premiums on the health insurance marketplace are already slated to jump between 20 and 36% in Indiana in the next year. Open enrollment starts in 2 weeks. Last week, the president tried to do with the stroke of a pen what Congress has not been able to accomplish. He signed an executive order allowing employers to form groups across state lines and buy short-term insurance policies. The president says this will promote healthcare choice and competition. Critics say the order undermines key protections in the Affordable Care Act by creating low-cost insurance options for the healthy and driving up costs for the sick. They argue the move further destabilizes the insurance marketplace. Those enrolled in a plan aren't likely to see any changes from this new order until 2019. One of the most talked about political topics of the week was Vice President Mike Pence's decision to walk out of last Sunday's Colts game. 23 players from the San Francisco 49ers took a knee, continuing the recent racial justice protests during the national anthem. Pence fired off a series of tweets saying he wouldn't support an event that, quote, disrespects soldiers, the flag, or the national anthem. Then Trump chimed in, saying it was all his idea, fueling further speculation the move was planned in advance. Fans at the game were divided. Conservative estimates of the vice president's political statement put the cost at about $250,000 after the flight from Las Vegas to Indy, then to LA on Air Force 2. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell says the league hasn't changed its policy to require players to stand during the national anthem. That despite a tweet from the president saying otherwise. NFL owners are set to discuss the topic at their next meeting. Members of the American Legion weighed in on the controversy during a celebration of the passage of legislation for a commemorative coin. Here's RTV6's Derek Thomas.
Those protests have been going on inside NFL stadiums since last year. But recently, President Trump has been shining a spotlight on the issue. The president tweeted, "Why is the NFL getting massive tax breaks while at the same time disrespecting our anthem, flag, and country? Change tax law." The American Legion membership is as patriotic as they come, but that didn't get much traction.
I have no idea where he's coming from on that or what he's trying to do, but you know, that's President Trump, so.
But there was passionate response to the protests themselves.
I don't want to say disgrace, but it's very disheartening to us. We have servicemen coming home draped in those flags, and it's just hard for us to do that. Like I said, I don't disagree with their right to do that. Maybe they could have picked a better venue to do that.
State Senator Greg Taylor says the protests are about police brutality, not about the flag and not about NFL owners.
This issue didn't start over NFL owners paying taxes. This issue started about people who have very little voice being treated differently in this country. And I think if we focus on that issue alone, not who tweets the most or what they tweet, but what are the issues that we have in this country and how do we address them?
Until that happens, the protests may continue. The division may grow, but Old Glory will continue to wave. Derek Thomas, RTV6.
Senator Todd Young spoke at the ceremony last week. When asked if he opposes players taking a knee, he says he believes in the First Amendment and he fought for it, but he thinks the national anthem is a time to pause and recognize the sacrifices of veterans. New fundraising totals this week in the closely watched U.S. Senate race. Senator Joe Donnelly's campaign reports raising $1.3 million in the third quarter. The incumbent has $4.6 million cash on hand. Congressman Luke Messer's campaign says it brought in close to $735,000 this summer. That brings Messer's total cash on hand to $2.4 million. State Representative Mike Braun's campaign committee reports a fundraising total of more than $1 million in the last 3 months. Congressman Todd Rokita's campaign isn't releasing numbers yet. Today is the deadline to file the information with the FEC. Rokita started the third quarter with about $2.4 million on hand. More police officers and firefighters will be wearing the uniform and protecting our city. The City County Council approved the budget for next year. That includes funding for more than 80 new Metro police officers and 40 new firefighters. The city will make a $120 million investment in street, sidewalk, and stormwater improvements. Some of that money coming from the hike in the state's sales tax on gasoline. Coming up, is it a fair comparison? Our political insiders are here debating the proposal to license journalists and the president's threat to NBC.
Rallies and checkers. Fast foodies know the deal.
Welcome back. We've got our political insiders here joining us. Republican Pete Seat, Democrat Adam Kirsch, and former political reporter, now retired from the Indy Star, Mary Beth Schneider. So Representative Lucas's draft bill, do you think it's a fair comparison when we're talking about licensing journalists versus licensing handguns?
I think it's a worthy topic of discussion. I mean, we regulate the Second Amendment in one way that we don't necessarily regulate the First Amendment, and I think he's shining a light on that, getting people like us to have this conversation on Sunday morning on television, and ultimately he's won because of that. That's what he's going to do. That's what he wants. I don't think he actually wants this to be legislation. He doesn't want to see this passed. He wants people to talk about it.
Yeah, Pete's exactly right. This was not about licensing journalists. This is about licensing handguns. That's Jim Lucas is a NRA supporter, very strong Second Amendment supporter. That's his big issue. The idea of regulating journalists in the way he's talking about is ludicrous on the face of it. Reporters already face legal consequences for libel, slander, and the Constitution calls for a well-regulated militia. It says Congress shall make no law on freedom of press and speech. And so it's not about reporters, it's about guns.
I don't think Representative Lucas is a serious person, and this is not a serious issue.
Well, so we're having the discussion. He succeeded in getting people, at least us, talking about it here. Do you buy the argument that when we talk about constitutional rights, it could be a slippery slope?
No, you know, to Mary Beth's point, we do have laws that regulate the freedom of speech. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. You can't libel someone in the press. For some reason, the Second Amendment is the one that Republicans don't want to regulate, and they want to regulate all the others in nips and tucks. So no, regulation for the public good is important.
Again, I don't think he's calling for actually regulating it. I think he wants this conversation to take place. And to kind of piggyback a little bit on what Mary Beth said, the Second Amendment says that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, and it says in the First Amendment that the freedom of the press and the freedom of speech shall not be abridged. But in one way we regulate, we infringe in some way, but on the First Amendment, we don't. So he's saying, hey, why are these treated differently? And it's a topic that we should discuss.
But to Mary Beth's point, the wording is different. The Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be abridged.
So you're saying people don't have the right to keep and bear arms? Is that what you're saying right now?
The Supreme Court said that until, I believe, 2003.
Somewhere in there.
So I think it's pretty well understood that the people have the right.
It wasn't for years. I don't want to get into, because I don't think that this is, again, the whole argument is absurd on the face of it. He wants us to talk more about licensing. It has absolutely nothing to do with reporters being licensed.
All right, moving on. The president's executive order on health care, in terms of those CSRs, the subsidies, how do we get to this point? Who's responsible for the instability now heading into open enrollment?
Donald Trump and congressional Republicans are sabotaging the American health marketplace. What's happening is they're doing everything they can to throw up uncertainty, because they've said for years, we're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. Obamacare is collapsing. The fact is there are some improvements that should be made to Obamacare, but everything the Republicans have done is to intentionally sabotage and hurt Hoosiers and raise health care costs.
We saw Republicans in Congress, after their repeal and replace efforts failed, you did see people like Lamar Alexander and a couple others, Susan Collins, trying to work with Democrats and to address one of the things that they want to address is stabilizing the insurance markets. Rates already went up because of uncertainty of what was happening in Congress. So I do think it's a problem that Congress should address, and I think may, but Donald Trump made the uncertainty worse with what he did yesterday.
You agree, Pete?
Absolutely not. I mean, the premiums went up before Donald Trump was president. Insurers fled the marketplace before Donald Trump was president. People lost doctors before Donald Trump was president. The only people to blame are congressional Democrats who passed the bill before they read it, and they shoved it down our throats. And now they're saying, oh, it's not our fault. Of course it's your fault. You didn't even read the bill you passed. So putting this blame on anyone but Joe Donnelly, Barack Obama, and anyone who supported this is a complete fallacy.
Pete, you need to update your talking points. You're talking 2012, Republicans have every lever of the federal government, and they can't do anything to fix health care.
But weren't premiums going up before he was president? Were people losing their
actually, can I stop? Premiums were going up, but they were going up at a slower rate than before Obamacare.
There were people getting 100% increases. I got a letter in the mail, 144% increase. Tell me that had anything to do with healthcare other than Obamacare. That was a direct result.
You can look at any study you like. They were going up at a higher rate before Obamacare. They did continue to go up, and there were issues that needed to be addressed, but they did not actually go up for everybody. And with what we're talking about with what President Trump just did has to do with a small segment that is the people buying on the individual market who are of lower income and need to have some subsidies to help them. This is largely, those are the people who are going to see now big increase because they're losing subsidy. It's going to really impact a lot of southern states, big Trump supporting. I think that, again, that's another reason I think Republicans may decide that they want to address this.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for being with us. Now coming up, a young Hoosier taking the makeup and body painting industry by storm. She discovered her passion during some troubling times. Erica Fly introduces us in our latest stop on 6 in the City.
805-4716. I'm Erica Fly, and 6 in the City is taking you inside the world of a young makeup artist making her mark in a very big way.
My name is Rachel Madison. I'm with Gland Effects by Rachel.
Makeup artist.
Lift your head up just a little bit.
Face and body painter.
Today we did kind of a pop art zombie.
Rachel started transforming people.
It's super weird, but it's like really cool at the same time.
Before she was even old enough to drive.
Well, I started doing makeup when I was about 14.
She's only 18 now and a rising star in her industry, competing among the best in the nation.
I'm usually like the baby of the group.
But she holds her own because that's what she's always done. In fact, it's how she discovered her passion.
So it's kind of a distraction because of the bullying and everything that was going on. I think a lot of kids go through it, and that is one thing that I will always stand behind is bullying.
Makeup and body painting helped her cope.
I know it's easier said than done, but try to just ignore it and focus on yourself and focus on the positive.
She was picked on in part because of her look.
I wore all black and everything and didn't really talk to anybody.
And now her cool and creative looks are in demand.
Now everybody came up to me and was like, hey, can you do my makeup? I'm like, where were you then? Yes.
How did you discover that there was more than just eyeshadow and lipstick?
YouTube, I think, was the main thing.
Beautiful. She researched, practiced, and created.
And I decided that, I could make this a career. And so I really just took off with that.
Possibly doing movie makeup, special effects, prosthetics, body paint. She's already good with gore.
October is the busiest month of the year with Halloween and everything.
And she's not slowing down, always perfecting her craft.
Even if you have to do something over and over again, it will definitely pay off if you can finally get it and be like, yes.
And in case you're wondering, you can get that body paint off with soap and water. You can see more of Rachel's work and get more information on our website and social media pages. We have a link at theindychannel.com.
The Indianapolis Public Library will officially open the Center for Black Literature and Culture next Saturday. It will be dedicated to celebrating the vibrant and resilient heritage and triumphs of those born with African roots. RTV6's Lauren Casey is sitting down with Special Collections librarian Michel Hayes. She's discussing what this new center will offer to all visitors and what it means for our city. Lauren.
And joining me in studio today is Michel Hayes. She's with the Indianapolis Public Library to talk about that new center. Tell me a little bit about it.
We're very excited. Our opening is going to be October the 21st, and our program is going to run from 12 to 3. Roland Martin, who is a TV journalist and nationally known, is going to be our keynote speaker. And the Center for Black Literature and Culture is located at Central Library. It's going to be a place for people to come and learn and gather, and just to kind of be in sort of like a third place for the city. So we're very, very excited.
Very cool. So talk to me a little bit about why this center in particular, it's right here at the Central Library in downtown, why that's so important for our community.
Well, I think it's very important because it's a neutral space, because libraries are very transformative, and so it's going to be a place where people can learn about Black history and Black culture. They can come and dialogue and have discussions, and just a safe place to be. And also we want it to be a place that's both windows and mirrors. So windows for people that are not of African descent, for them to learn about that rich history and culture, and then for people that are of African descent, for them to see themselves reflected in a lot of different ways. So there's going to be a huge focus on local heroes and sheroes, so we're very excited about that. So I'm sure people will see like neighbors and family members, and that always is very, very exciting to see where you kind of connect to overall history. So people like Judge Walton Pratt and Mari Evans and Etheridge Knight and even Oscar Robertson. So we're really excited.
Well, very exciting. Give me an idea. We've seen some of the renderings of what this will look like visually. What can people expect?
Visually, as I said, you're going to see a lot of focus on local heroes and sheroes. There's going to be artwork that's going to be displayed. There's going to be a huge kind of simulation of a talking drum. It's our epicenter, and it's where you're going to be able to go inside and kind of hear things and see things, be able to access our card catalog, and just kind of get an overall idea of what the space will be about.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to this opening. Again, that opens Saturday, October 21st. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
A local artist, dozens of volunteers, and the Children's Museum are bridging a gap in one Northwest Side neighborhood. Their method is paint at the Interstate 65 bridges that pass over West 29th and 30th Streets. Local artist and designer Quincy Owens says the Children's Museum wanted to add life to the gray slabs of the concrete bridges.
But I just want to bring color to the whole city eventually. I think that the more people know about their communities, the more likely they are to have a pride in their neighborhood, or a sense of engagement with their neighborhood. Each of the colors in this actual mural, they all represent something.
Owens says the Children's Museum has been an advocate for the neighborhood, fixing up properties, building new homes, taking down abandoned buildings, and in this case, providing plenty of colorful paint. Join the conversation. Check out Indy This Week on Twitter, and be sure to like our Facebook page. Lauren Casey joins us next with the 6 and what you need to know heading into next.
Welcome back to Indianapolis This Week. I'm Lauren Casey. It's time for the 6, so let's take a look at 6 things coming up this week in Indy. You can stay inside Monday night cheer on the boys in blue. Monday Night Football kicks off right here at RTV6. Our live pregame coverage starts at 5 p.m. Then the crew at ESPN will take over coverage for the game, and then you can stay tuned right here for post-game reaction on the news at 11. We'll grab the kids if they're brave enough for Creepy Creatures at Garfield Park Conservatory. This is the class happening Tuesday at 2 p.m. It's for kids ages 5 to 11. Cost is $5 to learn a little bit more about those creepy, somewhat crawly creatures in our area. Well, a great stop for your tour of fall places in Indiana is Conner Prairie. Their Apple store right here is still open. It will be all month long. They have your favorite fall treats, hand-dipped caramel apples. The funds raised here at the store help to benefit their educational programs. Well, you can cut down on identity theft. Get ready to shred in Carmel. Carmel is hosting a shred day where you can dispose of documents, old computers in a safe way. It's this Saturday from 10 to 1 at Creekside Middle School. Well, the Ghosts and Goblins, they're coming to party in Broad Ripple this weekend. They're hosting their Zombie Walk and Zombie Prom. Don't forget to wear a costume. You can enjoy carnival games, fire performers, and DJs. You can also help out by making a donation to Gleaner's Food Bank. Well, let the trumpets sound. A massive band competition is making its way here to the Circle City. Bands of America Super Regional Championship brings together more than 60 high school bands from 9 states to compete right here at Lucas Oil Stadium. The musical competition takes place Friday and Saturday. That's what's on tap this week in Indy. Back to you.
Well, thank you for joining us this Sunday for Indianapolis This Week. For our entire team, have a great week ahead.